Wherapy. Therapy wherever, whenever.
The second aspect that I want to talk about, the second thing that I learned during my therapy world tour about how culture can affect mental health, is extrovert versus introvert, this concept. Yeah, it pertains to that. And for those of you who don't know, extroverts are people who are very social and are very outgoing, whereas extroverts are people who are not as social, who are not as outgoing. There is also, and this is very often forgotten, an element of energy involved in this concept. Yeah, so extrovert people receive their energy from being around other people, whereas introverts receive their energy from being alone. And I was speaking to a person from South America who themselves were an introvert. They said that they were a bit autistic, and autism is it exists on a scale, so you can be very autistic or less autistic, and this person was perhaps less autistic, maybe on the old Asperger's diagnosis, that area of the spectrum. And autistic people, they have a difficulty mentalizing, thinking about what other people think about what they think about. They also have issues with energy levels. They have issues with being affected by different types of stimuli like light, smells, food. They also have difficulty reading between lines, and they have many other difficulties as well. But what I'm getting into is that they have difficulties which are quite similar to being introverted. Yeah, autistic people are in and of themselves introverts. And South America, the Latin American society is a very social society. Yeah, it's a society that they, on the surface level, the little that I know about it, is that they like big gatherings, they like big families, they like parties, they are not afraid of talking to strangers, they are very kind of open and social, and they're not afraid of having conflicts with other people. They're also maybe not afraid of just joking around with people that they don't know. There is maybe an expectation about being able to be social, yeah, and having that skill set. And Latin American people, South American people, are maybe learn that skill set at a very young age due to the society that they're in. And this person that was introverted was having a very difficult time being in that society. And if I remember correctly, that person had also been living for a few years at some point in a European country. And I, as a Swedish person, know that in Sweden we are very introverted in general. We are not as open and not as talkative as other cultures. We also are a little bit more guarded and maintain a distance to other people. Yeah, and that's a shame in many ways, but it's also just the culture that we are in. Yeah, and this person who happened to be introverted, I don't remember which European country that she lived in, but if she had been in Sweden, then she would have fit in with that culture quite fine, and her introverted personality wouldn't have been so much of a problem. If she had been extroverted and living in Sweden, then that might have caused a lot of friction, which may have eventually led to a depression. But in this case, she was introverted and she was living in South America, and she had a lot of family members which wanted to make big parties, and whenever she felt like she couldn't go to those parties and she wanted to be by herself, then that was problematized. And the issue is not in and of itself being introverted. It's how society views introverts, and her experience of how society in that South American country viewed introverts was as somebody who is depressed, somebody who is there's something wrong with that person, somebody who has a big issue, and who needs to be pushed to be an extrovert. So her family, her friends were pushing her to be more extroverted. This was something that didn't fit with her true self. So she was forced into being a fake version of herself in order to maintain a connection with people in her country, with her family and with her friends. And this false version of herself, in comparison to the real version of herself, the true version of herself, comparing those two things with each other is also what leads to a depression. So it was a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy when people came to her and wondered if she was okay mentally, because she didn't want to be in this social situation that they were putting her in, and she was trying to take care of herself and just be by herself a little bit. They made that a problem, which led to her actually feeling depressed and it becoming a problem in the long run. So that is one more example of how culture and expectations from a certain culture can affect a person's mental state.